Well, hi grade 12s, welcome to Moby School. My name is Mark and I'm going to take you on a journey through the grade 12 mathematics syllabus. It's a wonderful syllabus and we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at the most essential concepts in the curriculum. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by revising the most critical concepts that you need for grade 12. These concepts come from grade 10 and 11, and should you be struggling with any of these concepts that you need for grade 12, you can always go to the Moby School lessons for grade 10 and 11. There are detailed lessons and explanations of these important things, so you never need to be left behind with Moby School. But we nevertheless need to emphasize important things, and let's start off by focusing on what we call the quadratic equation. Okay, this is a very, very important equation for all aspects of grade 12 mathematics. So let's look at quadratic equations. If you remember, quadratic equation really is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals naught, and a is never equal to naught here, so you always have a term in x squared, and we have various techniques that we use from grade 10 and 11 to solve this quadratic equation. So let's start off with a few examples. I'm going to start right at grade 10 level. X squared is equal to 9. How do we solve for x? Well, there are two possible ways. Firstly, it's quadratic. You've got a term in x squared. So what we can do is we can bring the 9 to the left as we did in earlier years. Okay, and what do you now do? You factorize. What kind of factorization is this? It's a difference of two squares. Now, you can go back to grade 10, Moby School lessons on factorization, and guess what? You'll have all of these explained in detail. Okay, now when you get two brackets multiplied together equals naught, if you remember, you break it up into two parts there. Okay, in other words, x plus 3 is naught or x minus 3 is naught, so x would then be equal to negative 3 or x is equal to 3. We can also say x is equal to plus minus 3. Okay, which summarizes that. Another way, of course, that you could do it in grade 11, if you've got x squared is 9, if you remember, you could say x is equal to plus minus the square root of 9, and you get your answer directly, which is plus minus 3. Okay, so there's the one type of quadratic equation. Have a look at another one quickly, number B. Say, for example, I said to you, solve for x in this equation. Okay, now careful. It's a quadratic equation. You've got a term in x squared, so bring the 3x to the left. In other words, what happens, the equation changes to 9x squared minus 3x is equal to naught. Now, you're going to factorize this, and there's a highest common factor of 3x in there. So take out the 3x. What are we left with? 3x minus 1. Okay, the quadratic equation is always tested often in the very first question in your matric final paper. So they give you 4 marks for almost free. Okay, now we can break these up into 3x equals naught or 3x minus 1 is equal to naught. Now divide both sides by 3. So there's one of your solutions. X is naught or 3x is equal to 1 if you take the minus 1 across. Divide both sides by 3. And what do you notice? We've got x is equal to a third. Okay, cool. By the way, another way that I like doing this is if you've got 9x squared is equal to 3x, another good way is, do you notice that there's a common factor of 3? In fact, the highest common factor between 9 and 3 is 3. So what I would suggest you do is divide everybody by 3. And look what happens to the equation. It actually simplifies, and it makes your life a little bit easier. So if you bring the x now across and you change the equation to 3x squared minus x is naught, it's easy to take out your little common factor there of x, and you get the same solution. So you say x is equal to naught, or 3x is minus 1 is equal to naught, 3x is 1, x is a third. Those are the exact same solutions as if you did it in this method here. Okay, now be very careful. You cannot divide by x, because if you divide by the variable you're solving for, you're going to lose x equals 0 as a solution, and that's what you don't want to do. Okay, now let's have a look at another example quickly. Number C here. If you've got 4x squared minus 12x is equal to negative 8, well, notice that in this quadratic equation there's a common factor of 4, so I guess it would be worthwhile dividing throughout by the number 4, the highest common factor. Now your equation simplifies to x squared minus 3x is negative 2. Bring the negative 2 to the left, and look what you've got, a trinomial. Now, in grade 10, if you remember, you factorized these trinomials. And just to briefly go through it, again, if you're struggling with factorizations, get those grade 10 Moby School lessons on factorization. Excellent stuff. Remember, we wrote an x and an x. The plus tells us that the signs must be the same, and they must be both minus, as per that sign there. And then we had 2 and 1. Okay, and remember, when you multiply this out, you always get back to where you started. Okay, so now we've got two brackets multiplied equaling 0, and we can say x minus 2 is 0, or x minus 1 is equal to 0. So then x is equal to 2, or x is equal to 1. So there are your two solutions there. Okay, let's look at another one, number D. Now this one is a classical exam question that comes up in matric. 2x minus 1, x plus 2 is equal to 25. Okay, now what do we do here? We notice that the product of this product here does not equal 0, so we can't split them up. So what do we have to do? We have to go and multiply out. So how do we do that? Well, 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is 4x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2 is equal to 25. So what does this give us? 2x squared plus 3x. 4x minus 1x is 3x. Then you've got negative 2 subtract 25 is 0. Bring that across. And then what do we have? 2x squared plus 3x. Negative 2 minus 25 is minus 27. Okay, now all you've got to do is factorize. You can use the quadratic formula that I'm going to discuss in the next lesson, but otherwise you can use what you did in grade 10, which said you've got two brackets, and the sign, because that's a negative, the signs must be different. And then do you remember what you did is you took 2x squared and wrote down some product options, and you took 27 and you wrote down some product options. 9 times 3 is 27. You then cross multiply. 2x times 3 is 6x. 9 times x is 9x. Okay, and then of course you have to, with different signs, get the middle term positive 3x, which of course you do get with 9 minus 6. And then if you remember, the plus goes to the 9, the negative goes to the 3, and your factors are 2x plus 9 and x minus 3. Okay, and then what did we then do is we broke them up into 2x plus 9 is equal to 0, or x minus 3 is equal to 0. So 2x is negative 9, x is negative 9 over 2 if you divide both sides by 2, or x is equal to 3. And of course this you can say x is equal to minus 4.5 if you so wish. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to give you a practice example which involves algebraic fractions, where you get the LCD. Now this was done in grade 10 and 11, and you might want to go back to the grade 10 lessons in Moby School on this, or have a go at this on your own and see what you do.